it do, Dream Team? It's your boy Neal back with another reaction video, guys. Here we are with Never Take Ants Out of Australia. And I'm not surprised at the title because everything in Australia is evolved further than most other animals on the planet. All the animals are the most venomous, most dangerous, most poisonous, biggest effing. They just evolve at a different rate over there. Before we jump into this, though, make sure you subscribe to the channel, ring notification bell, get a video a thumbs up so it gets suggested. See what these ants doing over there.
What is this?
And we are going to break this video into 2 parts.
Wait, let me get this straight. This one here's an ant that lives in Australia. This one lives in Australia as well. And even this ant also lives in Australia.
Oh,
well, it's pretty clear. Animals on this continent have turned into monsters. Again. But, as always, that didn't happen without any cause. Meet the bull ant. Quite the intimidating insect with those massive mandibles that seem to justify its fearsome reputation. These ants are incredibly aggressive, and their bites are downright painful. If that wasn't bad enough already, some species can leap at you when they're in a particularly angry mood. As I mentioned, these ants pack a painful bite, and their venom is no joke, ranking top tier among insects. Australia thought these ants weren't scary enough, so the bull ants got an upgrade. An incredible eyesight. They can track and chase invaders from a distance of about 3 feet. Pretty impressive for large ants.
And absolutely everyone falls into the number of intruders. You're blacklisted the moment you get too close to the nest. Once that happens, the ants are coming for you.
When you see these big feisty ants charging out of their nest, it's your cue to run away ASAP. And when I say big, I'm talking bull ants that can grow up to 1.6 inches. And if dealing with a swarm of these angry giants isn't bad enough,
1.6 inch ant? Nah. Yeah. I see one of those ant piles. I'm running. Sprint. Don't walk. Run the other way, bro. Get away from these bad boys. And I know they out here just terrorizing all the other insects, destroying everything in their path. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm sure there's so freaking many of them.
They go for painful bites.
Ooh.
Picture this. They latch onto you with their mandibles, arch their abdomen to reveal their stinger, and pump you full of venom.
Ew.
I just got bitten by a bull ant.
Those excruciating.
She can't even get... Dang, it's that bad, bro. She had to stop the effing report she was doing or whatever. She couldn't keep going. Like, I just got bit by an effing bull ant. You see her take a deep breath. You know it's pain. When you gotta take that deep breath, you know that's pain. Yeah, I ain't trying to F with these ants.
Excruciatingly painful bites they give must serve a purpose. I mean, nothing in nature just goes down for kicks, so what was evolution's idea? To figure this out, scientists analyzed ant venom and discovered a unique molecule. Instead of directly causing pain, it amps up the sensitivity to the bites, extending the pain for quite a while. Considering how aggressively ants attack those who approach their nest and how fiercely they sting, it's not a bad strategy. It works. This strategy also works against the echidna, a unique predator endemic to Australia. Echidnas armed with quills are the only creatures bold enough to raid bull ant nests for their larvae. Dealing with those quills is tough, so the ants make the predator hypersensitive to pain and then just keep biting it. Scientists figure this keeps that predator from coming back for more. Long story short, once you feel those bites, you won't sign up for that again, not even for some delicious larva. The ant's venom was specifically designed to fight echidnas, and they've been coexisting for ages, evolving side by side for millennia. They've had time to adapt.
But here's the thing. The ants didn't expect to find out their venom, designed for echidnas, affects humans in a similar way. But it's not their fault.
Now for some information that had me scratching my head for a few seconds. Australians often wonder why there are so many stinging creatures around them. It's like all the lethal and painful creatures decided to call one continent home. How did it end up this way?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I just assumed it's because like there's so much land in Australia that's unlivable, like that all these animals have a place where they can go out and thrive and not be disrupted and not have their homes destroyed by humans and be good. And you feel me? And be good. That's what I figured. but I'm probably wrong.
Those questions don't have satisfying answers, but when it comes to bull ants, they're Australian simply because they went extinct everywhere else. Way back in the past, bull ants could be found anywhere. Fossils of these insects have been discovered in Canada, Colorado, Germany, Denmark, and Argentina, and they're a whopping 50 million years old. They might have been around to sting even dinosaurs. Yes, you heard right. 50 million years ago, different species of ants already existed on Earth. Scientists believe that the very first ants appeared about 140 million years ago, and then spread across the planet following the flowering plants. They had plenty of time to diversify into different species. Looking at the history, it's doubtful the first bull ant just popped up in Australia, but there's a theory explaining why it settled there and turned really aggressive. Here's what happened. Once upon a time, Australia was part of a massive supercontinent called Gondwana, alongside with South America, Africa, India, and Antarctica. About 140 million years ago, Gondwana started breaking apart, leading to Australia's split from Antarctica, leaving it relatively isolated. Around this time, it seems a bunch of bull ants got stranded on the Australian mainland, cut off from the rest of the world. While their relatives elsewhere in the world went extinct, these Australian bull ants thrived. Not that it's a bad thing. At least the Australian ants didn't have to send them holiday cards. Meanwhile, in Australia, only a handful of animals got stuck on the continent. Over millions of years, they diversified into distinct species, finding their own places in the animal world. While biodiversity wiped out the bull ants in all other parts of the world, they found their niche in Australia. Initially, they weren't bothered because no predators even tried to eat them. However, they started to evolve and adapt to the local threats, like the echidna, picking up strategies to defend themselves. Nowadays, even the giant spiders that terrify the whole world don't faze these ants. They really give me the chills.
Yeah, I can imagine.
They don't care at all. Things get interesting when it comes.
Yeah, I done seen a couple like spider versus ant fights on YouTube, and the spider be winning at first, but then there's just the overwhelming number of ants. It just gets to them, and the spider goes down. They start ripping limbs off. They start just picking spiders, picking praying mantises, picking any and every challenger they face. They just start picking them apart. The overwhelming number, plus now the bull ant got so much, his bite so strong, and then got the venom that bring on the sensitivity, and also got great eyesight, and it's like, God, I'm telling you, these Australian animals, they got it all. They evolve over there.
Comes to the mandibles. They didn't appear because the bull ants lived in Australia. They've been part of bull ants worldwide, a fundamental tool for both defense and offense. Down under, across millions of years, they didn't lose this trait because, well, why would they? It works. Those menacing mandibles remain as effective today as they were millions of years ago.
As for why mandibles evolved initially, that's a good question. Could it be to bite the dinosaurs' asses?
Actually, when you start studying ants in Australia, it doesn't take long to realize there's an insane amount of them. Everyone in or visiting Australia is bound to have their own run-in with ants at some point. Anywhere you go in Australia, whether it's a remote sand dune out in the outback or a bustling city street, ants are all over the place. It's like they're on track to become a national symbol, just like kangaroos or koalas. Australians are getting anxious because if the ant population keeps rising even slightly, this is exactly what's happening, they'll end up surrounded by ants all the time, everywhere they go. Ant nests can be huge, with tens of thousands of workers, and vast mounds, or small, with just a few workers clustered in hollows between rocks or inside branches. Globally, there are approximately 300 genera and around 15,000 described species and subspecies of ants. Australia is currently known to have representatives of about 100 genera and 1,300 described species and subspecies. This means that in Australia, you'll find a third of all ant types and about 15% of all species. Plus, there are ant genera here that exist nowhere else on the planet, making it an absolute ant paradise.
I see. I definitely see.
Not only there's an abundance of
bro, I love this channel, bro. The fact that he just keep putting himself in the video with the ants, bro, that's funny. That's entertaining, while he's also educating.
Ants in Australia, some of them have fascinating jobs. Just a quick note, the ants we're talking about aren't originally from Australia, but they're too intriguing not to mention. Honey ants, or as they're also known as honey pot ants, store a supply of nutritious liquid in their abdomen. When times get tough and the usual food is no longer enough, the colony relies on this honey as a reserve left for a rainy day. They don't just make a little bit of honey, they can puff up their bellies to the size of a grape. It's such a big deal that when one colony attacks their anthill, they aim to steal them and haul them away. Ants around the world store their food similarly to those in Australia, but it's the tough conditions on the continent that made them adopt this behavior. In Australia, honey ants can make up nearly half a colony. Well, almost half. Scientists estimate the share at 49% and 46%. That's 516 honey ants among 1,063 ants in one colony, and 1,836 honey ants among 4,019 ants in another, which is a lot. They're really into hoarding, aren't they? Honey ants typically inhabit deserts and other arid regions, like the scorching Australian landscapes, where securing resources poses a challenge due to extreme heat. To cope with that, they've developed a habit of hoarding, kind of like bees. The main difference is where ants keep their supplies. And as for the honey, it's actually quite sweet. And yes, I think scientists have tasted it to find out. Studying ant nests can be oddly...
Ew. I wonder how it tastes, though. I'm curious. But ew.
Fascinating, though it's a real pain. You start by hunting down a couple of ant nests, digging them up, and counting every ant you come across. Most people call it quits at this point, thinking, forget these ants, I'm out. But the truth is, that's just the beginning. Next, you've got to paint those ants various shades and spend about 250 hours keeping tabs on their every move. Then you steal their food and baby ants for isotope testing in the lab. Oh, and you better have a good story ready in case a cop spots you with a bunch of bright, oversized predator ants in your car. They might just leap out of the container and give the officer a good bite. Lots of Australians have a fear of bull ants, but once you've felt the sting of a jack jumper ant, you'll never forget it. Because this creature has some wild jumping skills. The jack jumper ant is a bull ant variant notorious for its sting that can cause anaphylactic shock in a person with allergies. It's not just even more aggressive. In exceedingly rare situations, its venom can turn fatal. The jack jumper ant is native to Australia and is most commonly found in the southeast of the mainland as well as in Tasmania. Oh, and it's got some mad jumping skills, leaping from high spots with its surprisingly strong but pint-sized legs. If you run into a jack jumper ant, it's not just the big barbed mandibles you'll have to deal with. These ants, just like their relative bull ants, pack a punch with their potent stingers. Unlike bees that sting once and die, these ants jump up and keep on stinging over and over again. The jack jumper ants owe their jumping prowess to evolution, which endowed them with a unique muscular system. These muscles contract and relax swiftly, propelling the ants forward with remarkable force. They're literally designed for jumping, efficiently converting chemical energy into motion. The jumping process involves muscles, tendons, and their exoskeleton, but let's skip the intricate details. The gist is they leap about 4 inches in distance and height, 3 times their body length. While 4 inches might not seem far, it means if they're on the ground, they won't reach your face. But if it gets...
To think 3 times your body length, though, that's insane. If I was able to jump 3 times my body length, bro, that would be crazy.
However, these are all more like scary stories. Why don't we dig into how bull ants got their special abilities? What's the story there? Scientists discovered that the trap jaw mechanism evolved independently in the ant world about 7 to 10 times. So evolution seemed pretty convinced that ants absolutely needed those jaws to make it. As I mentioned, bull ants probably arrived in Australia already equipped with those impressive jaws. It would have been silly to ditch them because they're such a cool way for these ants to catch and hold on to fast-moving prey. That's quite handy. The ability to jump may have evolved in response to predation by ant lions. You know, these guys, as adults, they look like dragonflies, but at the larva stage, they're the stuff of someone's nightmares.
What the hell?
Take a closer look. Ant lions love dry areas, and Australia is full of them. Ant lion larvae hunt by digging sand pits, luring ants and insects to tumble in, slipping down until they're at the bottom, ready for a hungry ant lion. The only way to survive is to push off and take a leap. That's how the ants of the Ponarinae subfamily escape the pit, but they use their spring-loaded jaws to jump. Yep, they literally jump using their jaws.
Wow.
And surprisingly, it helps them survive better, statistically speaking. And by the way, the fastest animal in the world is also an ant.
That's crazy.
Mystrium camele, also called the Dracula ant. That's a really cool name. Can snap its jaws 5,000 times faster than the human eye blinks. You might have expected this to be about speed of movement, but
Can snap its jaws faster than 5,000 times the amount of time it takes a human to blink. That is crazy.
hey, have you tried snapping your jaws? It's pretty hard to
Did
do
you say
it fast.
5,000 or
With
5
movement
times?
1,000 times faster than ants. That's a really cool name. Can snap its jaws 5,000 times faster than the human eye blinks. You might have expected this to be about speed of movement, but hey, have you tried snapping your jaws? It's pretty hard to do it fast. This tiny Dracula can actually snap its jaws at an incredible speed of 200 miles per hour, making it the fastest land animal in terms of movement. The ant brings its jaws into action, clamping their tips together. It's kind of like snapping fingers. Who would have guessed it was such a useful hunting skill? So is it that surprising the Dracula ant lives in Australia? Well, to be honest,
No.
I'm not surprised at all. But
Not
I'll
one
clarify
bit.
that you can still meet this super fast ant in tropical Africa and Southeast Asia. Naturally, one might wonder why fast snapping jaws matter so much in the insect world. Turns out Dracula ants use this quick jaw action to hit their prey, either stunning it or pushing it away. Once the potential meal is all confused, well, or dead if luck is on the ant side, they bring it to the nest to feed the larva. And yes, this is yet another adaptation that ants have had to create in order to survive in Australia. Well, not everyone can eat leaves. You might end up hungry this way. Actually, Australia has quite a bunch of dangerous ants, which usually don't allow some new species to settle there. But alas, there are always red fire ants, one of the world's most invasive
course.
species. Red fire ants
Red fire ants everywhere, ain't they? They everywhere, ain't
were
they?
first discovered in Australia in 2001, and thankfully people immediately
Damn.
realized the incredible threat, though hardly anyone really realized just how serious it really was.
Taking out snakes, bro. Oh
Theory's
my
one
god.
thing, reality's another. As I said, the red fire ant and its counterpart, the yellow crazy ant, rank as the most dangerous invasive
my
species.
God.
They're also labeled among Earth's most devastating creatures. Neither species lived in Australia before. Humans unknowingly brought them to the mainland, triggering the beginning of a nightmare. Red fire ants are extremely aggressive, devouring everything from insects to frogs,
Jesus.
reptiles, and birds. They aren't picky at all. And you know what?
Insects, frogs, reptiles, birds. I could have swore that was a goddamn crocodile. They was all
is
in.
like a paradise for these ants. First, this continent might have been the most important of all for modern bird evolution. Today, Australia flaunts the most diverse bird life globally. And to ravenous ants, it's not merely a landmass, it's a lavish lunch buffet. Due to the weather, frogs aren't too common around here. Australia, on the other hand, is home to roughly 14% of the globe's reptile population. Again, it's like an all-you-can-eat buffet. And finally, ants just love to feed on farm animals. They sting livestock
What?
in and around their eyes, mouths, and noses, causing blindness, swelling, and suffocation.
Ew.
And guess what? Australia, with 61% of its land as farmland, holds the world's largest count of cows, loads of sheep, and plenty of other creatures, so ants can pretty much feast on it all. There's hardly a better place on the planet for these voracious ants.
Ew. That's effing awful, bro.
Here's the thing about these invasive ants. Elsewhere, they're just a regular nuisance. But in Australia, they can go crazy and turn into an ant plague. The conditions are just perfect for that to happen. Who could resist?
Invasive species must be dealt with, or they'll completely destroy the continent's biodiversity. You know what they came up with in Australia? A computer
What?
game. Okay, so it wasn't created on purpose, of course. Australian scientists simply used the well-known Age of Empires game to simulate ant wars. And not just for fun, but to
Oh
figure
my
out how to
God.
help local ant species fight off invaders. The research team created armies and battlefields of different sizes and shapes, observed the battles. All the results have been mapped out. You might think that scientists have it easy, goofing around at work, making it seem like serious research. But honestly, who'd find joy in simulating ant battles? Anyway,
Facts.
if we take the scientists' word for it, maybe they're just hiding the truth from us. Though actually, scientists say they have to recreate the same scenario over and over again, run it in a repetitive way with little or no intervention.
It's one of the least engaging ways to play a computer
Ew.
game.
They drew plenty of conclusions. Interestingly, the way ants engage in warfare closely mirrors human conflicts in their scale and the number of casualties. Scientists also found that small armies of strong soldiers better operate on battlefields with complex terrain, and large armies of weaker soldiers better cope with simple direct battles. You have to admit, it sounds like something that works equally well for ants and humans.
Facts.
Put this in the context of the real world. For ants, a simple battlefield would be a walkway or city park, and a complex battlefield would be a strip of shrubbery with undergrowth and woody debris. But the big
Look at
question...
all these goddamn ants. We gonna go ahead and end part 1 right there, guys. This is insane. Australia, once again, another animal that's invasive, that's evolved, that's stronger than ants across the rest of the world. That's all we got. You guys got a favorite video suggestion, you can subscribe to Patreon or drop it in the comment section. It's your boy D Neal. Out.